Since I am actually present here on the virtual, I'm going to go ahead and start until the folks at the Agnes Scott location can actually come on, because I think we're eating up time here, and it's a beautiful day where I am, and hopefully it's a beautiful day where you all are. As I had mentioned before we did the mic check, my name is Lucinda Clark, and I am the current president of the Georgia Poetry Society. The way that the Poetry Society works is that the officer who is at the live location is the presiding officer for the meeting. Now, that would be Agnes Scott, and that would be George, but because I am here, I am on the line, I'm going to go ahead and do my part for the program. So I've already welcomed everyone. The rest of you who have come on, I see you, Trish, welcome, and thanks for tuning in today. What I'm going to do right now is install our new officers. I don't know how many of you are aware, because it's so great to see so many of you. Last year, we had a transition, possibly midterm. Would that be correct, Stephen? Midterm, where I, as a vice president, was moved to the position of president. And I called some of my closest, dearest poet friends and said, step up, please. And they did. And so I would like to acknowledge them right now and actually have them inducted on the officially on the board of directors. The first person is George Hess. Now, George is not here right now, but he is currently the vice president. He stepped up when I had to step up, and he is responsible for putting on all the programs. You're going to hear more from him a little in a few minutes, but I wanted to acknowledge him. Next, we have our treasurer. Are you here, Donna? Donna Rose has she had agreed to stay on as treasurer, so we had some consistency there. We are still in need of a secretary, so anybody who wants to sign up after the meeting, just put your name in the chat and we will commence interview. Next is Rose Mincy, and I think a lot of you may have heard from Rose. I've known Rose since college days, which is about what, 10, 15 years. Only kidding. And she is a poet based in Atlanta. She stepped up and agreed to be our membership chair. I want you all to know, ladies and gentlemen, we are on fire with regards to membership because of Rose. She is also going to be presenting a little bit later. She's live at Agnes Scott, and so we'll hear from her. Next, we have Shima Kalbasi. I don't know where is Shima. I knew Shima way back when my only job was to be a publisher. We published 2 books of poems. Are one of my first translations from Farsi to English as a publisher. Shima was a translator. And so she is I think she can translate from Farsi to English, and I think it's Dutch, right, Shima? She's a filmmaker, and she lives right there in the great city of Atlanta, and she has agreed to serve on the board as well. And I think she's going to work with our youth for the Peach Bottom Poetry Slam. So I don't see you on my screen there, Shima, but again, welcome. Next is Sharon Schrader. I have known Sharon. We used to come down to GPS meetings in our car from Atlanta and say, why don't you guys come on up to Augusta? And they would cough and never come. But now, since she has joined the board, we have hosted several meetings in Augusta. She is in Columbia and Richmond counties right now, and she's working hard to bring things full circle. She has worked with her husband, who's a colonel in the military, and so she has lots of experience encouraging writing, because she's been an educator, and there's just so many things I could share about you, Sharon, but you'll get a chance. But thank you for all the encouragement and support you've given me this moment, including sometime, I guess it's like the middle of last year, and she was working with poets, or she was setting up a poetry program through Augusta University at a location called The Hub. This woman was so, I mean, we were there talking about all the things that can be done with poetry. We couldn't stop. The lady who had introduced us, our friend Laurie, said, geez, you guys should probably do something together. And I asked her to come on and be a board member and help us with the Augusta location. She has been instrumental in helping us pull off our second virtual program in Augusta. And if you get a chance, you gotta Google, what is it, The Hub? Is that right, Betsy? I know The Hub, right?
The full title is The Hub for Community Innovation. I can put it in the chat box.
I have to.
Yeah.
Yes, please do, because I see Laurie in the background saying, shout out The Hub, shout out The Hub. She's doing some phenomenal things down at The Hub with the Augusta Literacy Center. If I understand correctly, because I did speak to Marquise, you guys are going to be doing some collaboration, and that is, you should tell us about that a little bit later when we get to it now. I see that George is back. Help me inducting the officers. If you would, because I don't have my cheat sheet. You good, Stephen?
I'm sorry, I missed that. The internet's breaking up
okay.
a little bit here, so I wasn't sure what you were asking me to do.
Okay, so you were the one who inducted me last year. I lost the cheat sheet because I've been traveling. Could you do the honor of inducting our new officers, our board members, and George officially to the Georgia Poetry Society? I know you have those words in your head.
Oh, well, let's see if I can fish them out real quick. Well, if you folks who are with us this morning virtually or in person would raise your right hand, please, and repeat after us. I, your name.
I
agree to uphold the goals and the Constitution and bylaws of the Georgia Poetry Society.
Agree to uphold the laws and bylaws of the Georgia
Poetry Society. And
to the best of my abilities.
To the best of my abilities.
Thank you very much. That's all you have to do. You are official. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, George, and in keeping with time, I have one last duty before I turn it back over to George. The gentleman who just installed the new board members has served in the position of president for how many times have you done it, Stephen? God bless you.
Oh, it depends on how you count them, but at least two 2-year terms. And then I filled in for a guy who I had to finish his term because he had to resign suddenly for health reasons. So I call it 2.5.
Yeah, so he calls it 2.5, but as a person who has had to read everything about this organization, I just gave you 10. I just rounded it up to 10 years because I know other things that you've been doing. Stephen was responsible for our Reach a Song anthology. He actually edited it and uploaded it and helped us do our chapbook contest. He has been front and center in keeping the wheels on the Georgia Poetry Society through the pandemic. When I actually received the presidency, it was, I can't believe that you hung in there so long. And so today, and just right at the spare of the moment, you were able to step up. We actually have prepared a plaque to honor you for your service. The plaque basically says, and I think George has a copy of it as well. We're gonna mail it to you because we knew you weren't gonna be here today. But the plaque says, and it's got the Georgia peach on it, the Georgia Poetry Society logo and everything. And it says, in honor of 10 years of leadership and service to the Georgia Poetry Society, we proudly present to Stephen Shields this sincere token of appreciation and gratitude. January 14th, 2023. This is a small, we tried to get the gold watch. I checked with Rose, it's not in the budget, but this is the least we can do in thanking you for your service. We hope that Janet, your wife, continues to be on the mend, and we thank you for being here today. Please, let's all give Stephen, unmute and give Stephen a round of applause.
Well,
your plaque is on its way.
well, let me just say, that's very sweet of you and very kind of you. And I want to say a sincere thanks to everybody, especially to the board and officer group that I was fortunate to have through the pandemic. I mean, it did a number on everyone, and especially on volunteer groups. We had a very difficult time continuing some of our programs, and you have extraordinary people who appear at extraordinary moments to do extraordinary things, which is the only thing that I will say, going forward from here is no group exists without volunteers. Even if they're an organized paying group, you still need volunteers to do the many things that are just not gonna get done by people who have other tasks. And the Georgia Poetry Society has always been and probably always will be a volunteer-led group. And so I appreciate the fact that so many folks have stepped up and continued on with what we're doing. And I would be remiss in not recognizing especially my very able vice president, my daughter Allison, who, by the way, personal note, announced her engagement over the holidays. So she will, she's a very happy woman, and she's preoccupied with wedding planning. In fact, my wife and she and the mother of the groom are going out wedding dress shopping this weekend. And if I don't look like I'm anywhere close by, I'm actually at a writing retreat in Dadeville, Alabama this weekend with some of my other past presidents of the Georgia Poetry Society. Michael Diebert is here, Keith Badowski is here, and I am tasked with making breakfast. So I'm going to leave you shortly here and go do that, but it's very kind of you, and I really do appreciate the support, and I'm thrilled to see the Georgia Poetry Society continue to do well. And I will continue to look in and participate and be a part of things. So thank you again.
Thank you. Okay.
Bravo.
So say, tell all the other folks we said hey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right, it's back to you, George.
My name is George Hess, if you haven't figured that out yet. I'm your vice president and I'm in charge of the meetings. I want to welcome you all. It's really good to see people face to face. I'm not a real fan of Zoom. I have a physician who has every 6 months, we have a little call to each other. And I get to see him sitting in his chair, relaxing in his casual clothes. And I keep thinking, this is a professional visit we're having. And he doesn't look professional. So he doesn't have on his doctor's coat, a little white coat. So it's good to see you here. And for those of you who are in Zoom land, I can see you on the screen. And if you have questions, if you would please just type them in the chat box, and I will try to keep track of it if I can. I'm, as you can tell, ancient, and I don't keep track of Zoom technology very well. I heard on the radio today, now they have an artificial intelligence program where you can type in a few words and it can write a novel for you. I don't know about that. Anyway, also saw that Tesla is dropping their price of their cars by 20%. So you can run out and afford a Tesla now. I don't think so, but anyway, I forgot what they look like. But welcome. we're so glad to have you. My wife keeps asking me why you member of the Georgia Poetry Society, because you have headaches about it. And I say to her and to you, the reason I'm a member is because I want to be in touch with other poets. And we are a strange group of people, poets. We are not extroverts by and large, we're introverts. So we're pretty happy being alone. Please come in. And working in a closet. I have a place at home that's a little bit bigger than a closet that I work in, and it's my mess, and nobody gets to tell me how to take care of it. And I love that. And but that's where I write, and occasionally I share my poetry with other people and submit it for publication. And as most of you know, you get a lot of no's, not many yeses. But I keep trying. Steve Shields told me once, just keep at it. And so I keep at it. I hope you keep at it too, because we do have a voice, and our voice is important. And I think poetry is important to the health and welfare of democracy. And that's why today we invited children, if they allow me to call them children, to share their poetry with us, because they are our future. And without them, our words die sometime, will die someplace. And so we need to have them with us. So I'm going to invite them up one by one. We have one online, and Gray Pettis is out there. I see his thing on the screen. Are you there, Gray? He's muted. Can somebody help him unmute? I think he has to do it, doesn't he?
Yes.
So there you are, Gray. You're in the camera and we can see you. And so we would like to have you share your poem with us, please.
Harlem, a dream deferred by Langston Hughes. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe just sad like a heavy load, or does it explode? By Langston Hughes. Thank you.
Oh, great. You have an audience here that loves your poetry, so you should be encouraged by that. And let me step out of the camera for a minute. So I don't know if you can see this when I hold it up, but we have a certificate of achievement for you. And can you see it?
No.
We're going to sign this and we're going to give it to you. And I think Miss Rose can get it to you, or are you his pastor's here? So we want you to appreciate the fact that we appreciate you. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I put my book down. I don't know who's coming back. All right. So you can get your sticks out and beat me. Because although I lived in Africa for 3 years, the people I lived with did not have difficult names to pronounce. So I think that was Chinwe. Okay, Chinwe, could you come up and share your poem with us, please?
Mother to Son by Langston Hughes. Well, son, I'll tell you. Life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It had tacks in it, and splinters, and boards torn up, and places with no carpet on the floor. Bare. But all the time, I've been climbing on and reaching landings and turning corners, and sometimes going in the dark where there had been no light. So don't you turn that back now. Don't you sit down on the steps because you find it's kind of hard. But I still going, honey. I still climbing, and life for me ain't been no crystal stair.
Fantastic. We also have a certificate of achievement for you, and I will be signing it, and Rose Mincy will be signing it too, and then we'll let you have them. You can take them home and hang them on the wall or show your teachers or your friends, whoever. Okay, our last poet is, but not last but not least, is Wellen. Did I say that right? Whalen. Okay. Same last name. And are you older or younger? Older. Does she tell you what to do?
Yes.
I'm the oldest of my brothers, and they're still telling me what to do. So please come and share your poem with us.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to be reciting I Too by Langston Hughes. I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh, I eat well, and I grow strong. Tomorrow, I'll be sitting at the table when company comes. Nobody will dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America.
I think you mean to make you the House of Representatives poet. I think they could use that inspiration. So keep at it, Waylon, and continue working on your poetry, please. I started writing poetry when I was in high school. My teacher said, please write a poem. No, it wasn't please. The assignment was, you will write a poem. Okay. So I can remember my first poem that I wrote. I can recite it, most of it. And it was really bad. I think he gave me a C just for effort. And so I've been at it since then. I fell in love with poetry, and I hope both you and your sister fall in love with poetry and want to continue it for the rest of your life. Okay, moving right along, as Steve Shields would say, we don't have time to sit still. Julia Nolan is a former past president of the Georgia Poetry Society. She's a professor of French, is that correct? Yeah, and creative writing here at Agnes Scott College. And she is a wonderful poet. And we're glad to have her with us today. And she's going to be reading or sharing with us some of her poems from which books?
Newest chapbook.
Okay. And she gave me a plug about how to get published, which I keep trying to do. We'll see. All right, Julia, would you please come up and share?
Thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm really very touched by the invitation. And the reason for that is that as George said, I was the president of the Georgia Poetry Society for a few months, and I had to step down from that position. It was a very difficult decision. It was partly due to some health circumstances that I was going through. And Lucinda Clark stepped in to be president and is doing a much better job than I was able to do. And the fact that I've been invited back to read is just very meaningful to me because, as I said, it was a difficult decision to have to vacate the presidency, and I felt kind of guilty about it. And but I knew that Lucinda would do a better job than I was able to do. So I'm very touched, and I want to say thank you. And congratulations to the youth poets who just read. Amazing. And I'm also really happy to see some of my creative writing students in the room today. So I'm going to read you a few poems. Let's see, from my most latest, if that's correct English, most latest, I don't know, chapbook. A chapbook is a publication of poems generally less than 30 pages. And what's called a full-length collection is generally a book of poetry 48 pages or more. So this is from I'm going to show it here on the screen. The title is Poem at the Edge of the World. And I've been working with a publisher in Ann Arbor, Michigan. The first poem is called January Morning, because here we are on a January morning. It's cold, it's winter. And this poem is dedicated to my father, who died in 2018. January morning, awake, more knotted dreams in my hands. It stays dark past dawn. Where have you gone? With what spoken bone will you return? Now I see, dust tossed in a lake became voice. And that last image is from my experience with me and my mother and sisters scattering my dad's ashes in a lake in northern Michigan. And as you can well imagine, I'll never forget what that was like for the rest of my life. The next poem is called Moon. And I'm really excited to read it, especially for students of all ages, whether you're 8 years old or 88 years old. And this poem is from my own experience when I did my MFA degree in creative writing, Master of Fine Arts, and one of my professors told everyone in the class, I don't want to read poems with any grandmothers in them, and I don't want to read poems with the moon in them, because too much. There have been too many poems with grandmothers and moon. So naturally, I immediately wanted to write a poem with either a grandmother or the moon, because I felt rebellious, like, if I want to put the moon in a poem, then I will. So this poem is called Moon. Moon, enough already about it, my professor once said. There's no room for the moon in poems anymore. The idea being it has all been done before, undeniably true. I tried the advice, writing about waves, ill fate, petals like bells, eyes and lies, secrets to confess, all other things that have fully been said. Then last night, early spring, getting late, trees black and still bare, you held me hard in your arms. We were one, lit by it, entirely unknown, full pearl button, huge sequin sewn in night's lace dress. I'm going to read 2 or 3 more poems. The next poem, I'm going to send this book around. First, I'll show it on the screen. And then I'll pass it around the room. And here's a picture for those of you on Zoom. Here's a picture of this French sculptor, Camille Claudel, sculpting. This is her. So I'm gonna pass this around so people in the room can see this. The poem I'm about to read is dedicated to this woman. Many people have heard of the French sculptor Rodin. The last name is spelled R-O-D-I-N. There was recently an exhibit of his sculptures at the High Museum of Art. Camille Claudel is not nearly as well known, but she was a sculptor in her own right. And not to go on too long, but basically she was a student of Rodin and briefly his lover, and then they broke up. She kept sculpting. She suffered from some psychiatric problems, which are very common, and people all over Atlanta and all over the country suffer from similar psychiatric challenges. But back in her time, which back in the 1800s, there was not a humane treatment for people having this kind of difficulty. So she was confined in a psychiatric hospital in the south of France. And despite her doctors saying to her family, you know, she's better, she wants to leave, and I recommend that you let her leave. The family refused, and she stayed there for 30 years and she died there. And so I always like to share about this incredible artist, because my hope is that her sacrifice allows for people not to have to make that kind of sacrifice. So a long prelude for a short poem. Poem for Camille Claudel. Year after year, the bread and cup, the bed. You stand for many women, kept by men behind a window or within God's womb of stone. You remain alone, though you plead to leave, cultivating hope that never bled to believe. You draw a hand to hold with a stick in dry soil. Your bold vision wasted as night consumes day, tasting the silence of a sky that tastes of clay. So we're very lucky now to live in a time period where people can get the help they need and not be shut away in a scary place. So two more poems, lighten the mood a little bit. The next poem, I was very honored. This poem was chosen for the Georgia Poetry in the Parks project. It was chosen by the Georgia Poet Laureate, Chelsea Rathburn, who teaches at Mercer. And so along with other poets, this poem was publicly installed in the parks. So that was a great honor for me. It's called November Song. November Song. Praise gray skies, wet yellow leaves fall to red edge. I wonder why dark winter moves voices to fear every day, every night of the dead. How hard we try to cover fear with wrong things, hot meat gravy, a fat gold watch, words of wool, light cheer. November Song, empty me out to cloth without paint, barest branches, a cup without wine. Move me to snow on evergreen pine. And the last poem I'm going to read is a little poem about love. And the title of the poem is Amour, which is the French word for love. And I need to pull it up here. Okay, so the French word is amour. It means love, amour. I'm a pebble tossed at the bottom of a well, flame to a moth, both fire and cold faith. I came here last and lost, my mind undressed, holding one stone wish in hand. I stay here still, one stone wish in hand, dusty song to dusty wing. Thank you.
I guess we're not supposed to have pauses. But as I was walking up here, I was thinking about your first poem that you read about January. I lost both my father and my brother in January. So your poem really moved me and I appreciate it very much. And sorry, it's 30-hour site this week. There's some people we need to thank because this doesn't happen because we throw up a flag and say, we're meeting. One person I need to thank more than anybody else is Rose Mincy. I get these calls and I pick up the phone and it goes, George, are you there? Or George, or hi. And it's Rose. The reason I know it's Rose because it's on my screen on my phone. It says Rose is calling. I will have to get a special ring just for Rose because Rose calls and says, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Or what do you think about those? What are you thinking about the meeting? She has all of these things going. And I'm just amazed. She is what we call a go-getter. And when Georgia Poetry Society starts looking for another president, I know who I will nominate. You're welcome. It's my pleasure to thank you. Other people to thank, Trish Percival, she's got all the books. So if you need a book from the bookstore, Trish has it or she knows where it is. And if you go on our website and go, I think I'm remembering this right, click on bookstore. It has a list of all of our books and that we have in our catalog and she can help you get it. If you're looking for the Reach a Song for 21-22, she has that available and it's on demand. There's a new thing now. It's because of technology. You can call, you can go online and ask for a book and the book is not anywhere. It has to be published. They do publishing on demand now. And the Reach a Song is now publishing on demand. And so if you tell Trish that you want it, she can get it for you. You just have to pay for it. And we need the money. So really important. I appreciate very much the help of Lucinda Clark in helping us put the meetings together. She's the one that tells me, George, you pick the time, you pick the day, and you pick where. And I've never had that kind of freedom to do anything before. And I've been an administrator in higher ed and not been able to do that. So I appreciate very much the help that she gives me. And to the other members of the board, thank you very much for your support and your continued work for Georgia Poetry Society. I appreciate that very much. One of the things we do, how are we doing on time? Oh, we're doing great, moving right along. One of the things we do, we try to do at each meeting is have people share their own poetry. We call it open mic. And so if there's anybody in the room who would like to read, let me know now. Please come up. Yes. I can't hear you very well because of the mask.
Yes. I would like to share with you.
Well, come up and share with us, please. Please tell us your name.
Hello, I'm Elle Mettler. I am a sophomore student here, and I'm taking the Create Writing Poetry class. So This is a poem that I wrote for class, and I'm going to read it. It doesn't have a title I'm satisfied with, so let's just get started now. What? Okay. I don't know if this is worthwhile or what I have to say. Let's avoid a cliche but painted smile and get this out of the way. I won't deny that I attach myself to things that are better left kiss but don't tell. A scar self-inflicted you keep under wraps. You can let it air out, but never forget. All eyes are on you, but not on a stage, looking for hints of some cacophonic rage. So let's cut the crap, I'll drag you to my hell. Can't have words in my mouth, I say to myself. If hell's what you make it, then I've got it made. There's no need to hide, fuck the dead masquerade. That was a song reference, can you tell? But I show no deference, at least to myself. You can search all you want, store my brain on a raid, but there's nothing to hide and no fate to escape. Profound do you make it, we're all made of dirt. You can say stardust, but for what it's worth, plants eat the dirt and then we eat the plants. Dirt's closer than stardust to kids in tight pants. I destroy, I create, I hyperfixate, so deaf to your judgment, reverse heart engaged.
I think you need to work on getting that published. That's really a great poem. Are there any others that would like to share in the room? Rose is going to share later. So you keep looking at her and I said, okay. Are there any people out there in Zoom land who would like to share their poems? I'm looking. Trish, if you would unmute. There she is.
Okay, can you hear?
Oh, yes.
Okay. This is called Creation Story, Crow. A handful of primal dark, black to hoard and hold all colors. A handful of fractured light, shimmer skimmed from black plum seas to hypnotize, beguile. Wings to escape the stones of deluded souls who credit Satan with night. Wit to calculate what hurts, what helps. Telepathy, what one crow knows, its whole murder knows. They rise as one at dawn and roost together in the boon of dusk. Before let there be light, there was the dark, the creator in and of it. So on the 8th day, he tried again to make something in his own image. That's it.
Thank you, Trish. Maxine and I take walks when the weather's nice. She will say tomorrow morning, the sun is out, let's go walk. It'll probably be cold and I'll have to bundle up, but one of the things we always experience are the crows. They are everywhere. I think they know who I am.
They probably do, George. They can recognize faces.
They're there. And how do they know I'm going to the supermarket? I don't know. So.
My daughter did a
don't like birds of prey, because we have those in our neighborhood as well, and they really give a racket up when their birds of prey are flying about.
They do.
I'd like to share. Oh, come up, please.
And this is Wanda D. Hollis, and she's one of our brand new members.
Oh, wonderful.
So
you have to stand in
I have to stand here. Okay.
And I'm going to adjust it so we can see your beautiful hair.
Okay. Okay, so normally I'm not nervous, but I'm a little rattled, and I just want to, I was a little rattled this morning after reading a letter that my little brother sent me. He's incarcerated. And it kind of put me in a place of understanding why I fight so hard for people to follow their dreams. So bear with me. I am going to warn you, I am very, very emotional from some things that he shared with me. And he shared them only with me. So at this time, I can't talk about it. So you know how that feels when you can't talk about something? Yes. So anyway, my journey to poetry is very extensive. I've been writing since I was a kid. I didn't even know I was writing. An old friend reminded me of how I used to carry notebooks around and write in them. So, but by trade, I am a business coach and I'm a motivational speaker. And my mission is simply to encourage people to follow their dreams, get out of their way, and get out of their way. And writing for me has been a true serenity. You know, it's a true outlet to emotions and how I process life, how I go through breakups, how I go through transitions, you know. So I just want to share this poem with you because, and I have a book, my book is published, it's called I Am Enough. But this is the signature poem. And I really know this by heart, but I brought my glasses for backup. So let me just get started. And again, I want to say thank you to Georgia Poetry Society. Thank you to Rose Mincy. She is incredible. She, you know, we're going to do some great things together. So here we go. I am enough. See, I've heard it said before that we work on our dreams so we can thrive. If not, we're working someone else's dreams and we'll just survive. So I'm here to, let me introduce myself to you. I am Wanda D. Hollis. The D is for Denise, a name given to me by my grandmother, but originally my first name was supposed to be Denise. Until my great grandmother walked into the room and she looked at me and she said, I want her to be named Wanda. So there you have it. I am Wanda Denise Hollis. So either way, you know, I'm just passing through. I came here to inspire you, to live beyond your dreams, to go past the clouds and travel on Mars if that's what you desire to do. Let me assure you that I truly believe in you. Your visions and hopes are seeds planted in you, put there for a reason, perfectly designed just for you. And believe me, the universe is simply waiting on you. See, I didn't always know that truth. And then one day I woke up and I saw my greatness. It was staring me back. It gave me the courage to believe and see what others had seen in me, what others had encouraged me to be. You see, I didn't always feel like I was good enough. So I dabbled around and played with my dreams and talents, didn't think that I could make the cut. And then I discovered that I am enough. Not because I live life so perfectly. Now, y'all, I often break the rules, but it's because I finally decided to take the greater chances, determined to take the shackles off my voice, my hands, and my heart, celebrating freedom, knowing and believing that I am enough. I am free to be all that God has planted in me. And like a bird that soars with no instructions, it just comes naturally. For my gift is to inspire you through these words, and I hope you comprehend that my only mission is to encourage you. Let me ask you four questions. 1, what are your desires? 2, what is that thing? You know, that thing that burns down deep inside of you. And 3, you know that thing that always nags you? And 4, what is that dream that used to ride with you? Well, I am here to tell you, I am here to encourage you. I am here to let you know that it's not too late to take that dream off the shelf let it kiss the earth, and then spread it as though it was a dessert. I am enough. I am enough, and you are enough. We win together. Woven in the tapestry of love, it is the bread that feeds the masses. It's our gift that changes classes. Don't take the semester off because school is still in session. And with the strength of Dr. King, Malcolm X, Harriet Tubman, Langston Hughes, and my ancestors, strength, pride, and tenacity, and with the capacity running through my veins for the magnitude of my vision, it does not compete with fame. It encompasses all that I am. No price tag, no expiration date. It is the energy from the universe that impregnates me to leave you gifted in a very unique way. You see, you are enough. You are enough if you choose to believe. You see, when I was a little girl, I recall, come in closer. I'm gonna say this real quietly. See, I recall my mama, she told me that I was smart, that I was beautiful, that I could do anything I wanted to do. But those words have played over and over and over and over in my mind, but more impressively in my heart. But it just took me a little while to understand the totality of the sound. But yes, I'm gonna say that again. It took me a little while to understand the totality of the sound. So here I stand ready and willing to take my own mountain and move on to new ground. The soil, it may be hard and the work is involved, but I would only disappoint you if I didn't show up to bless you. It's my duty to prove to you that the greatest person you see is you, and it always stares back at you. I am enough. I am enough, and you are enough. Yes, we are enough. Now live knowing and believing that there is nothing, absolutely nothing that you can't do. Why? Because together we are more than enough. Thank you.
I'll keep that in mind. Thank you very much for sharing that. I hope that's published. Good. Rose reminded me that I forgot something on the program. Kathy Kinzer is here from WRAS, Georgia State Public Radio. No, Georgia Public Radio. Okay. She's going to share with us an amazing project that she's part of, and about how you can do better with your work. So come on up. Gave her 15 minutes, but she can have more than that.
Oh, that's right. I was going to set up my screen. Hi there. Hi, I guess I need to be taller. There we go. Okay. Okay. And so my radio show is, we're a nationally syndicated poetry, alternative music radio show. It's on here, we're over the air, the public radio, because they gave away our daytime signal from 5 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock in the afternoon. We're NPR, or our signal is NPR. But the all student run, which you all would love, is on 24/7 on HD radio. Does anybody know what HD radio is? I'm on HD radio. I have no idea what it is. Okay. But my car, I can get somebody else set it up because I couldn't do it. I'm a poet. And so if you want to hear great music, and again, this is all student run. So our students pick the music and they do a fantastic job. I mean, they reach, really, you would think it would be just targeted to students, but it isn't. I have many friends who are middle-aged, overweight, uptight white women, and they love our, you know, they've got HD radio and they love it. For me, so that everybody can hear my show in Atlanta, I asked to be on 7 to 9 on Tuesdays. So every Tuesday, We have our syndicated show is from 7 to 8, and we have a live show from 8 to 9. Now, yes, that's PM. Oh yeah, no, you could be awake. Because I'm not getting up at that hour. Anyway, so what we do is I'm always looking for writers. However, when I tell my writers that we only air poems from the Academy of American Poets, Fish House Poems, and fishhousepoems.org, which is supposed to be an audio archive of poems. I've been airing their poetry since 2012. We took over the show in 2006. And again, if I could get, I was kind of hoping we could get on the internet so you could see our website. Look up our website, melodicallychallenged.org. And that tells you all about us. The show was put on the air in 2006 by Robert V. Morey III, the month before he died. And he put it on with 12 Academy of American Poets CDs at midnight to 2 in the morning. And when he passed away, I took over the show in August. I had to train to be a DJ. There was a long line to be a DJ at WRAS at the time. And so my goal was always to syndicate the show to raise money for poets who never get money and students interested in radio. And so we still haven't, my family has donated a poetry prize, the Robert V. Morey III Poetry Prize at Georgia State, through the Academy of American Poets. But through the radio show, I'm hoping to raise money to award $1,000 scholarships. They only give the poets $100, the Robert V. Morey III through the Academy of American Poets. And man, that's not going to cover your Starbucks bill for like a month, I think. So I think we can do better. So everybody wants their poetry. And here's the thing. We air a lot of really lousy poetry audio. And my mission is to tell you how to avoid that. As a poet, I have had to learn through Adobe Audition. I can clean up a lot of it, but I can't clean up a lot of it. So that will determine when I'm listening to. See, the thing is, poets don't care. That's why it's on the Academy of American Poets. So long as they can hear the words, they don't care. And on both the Academy of American Poets and Fish House Poems, you can read the poem, so you know what it's saying. But I think it's really important to hear the poet. I mean, listen to the outstanding readers we had today. It just makes all the difference. It humanizes everything. It gets it off the page. So I think my show is very important. We're syndicated. I know for a fact we're syndicated on more than 5 shows in the country, more than 5 college radio stations. We're on SUNY Adirondack, KXMS in Missouri. We're on Savannah State. We were on UWG. Nobody at College Radio updates their website, so I don't know where I'm at. The pandemic was brutal on us, so on college radio. So luckily for me, we had an automated system, so they were playing Melodically Challenged. We were getting played 7 days a week because I have well over 200 shows in the can, so I could just give them all of our old shows and they would play that, you know, one same show 7 days a week, and then they'd switch to another show. But anyway, so again, it's always to honor Robert V. Morey III. Why do I do this? He was my son, and he was born with cystic fibrosis. He had had a double lung transplant 3.5 years earlier. They gave him 3.5 of the best years of his life, and that was at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, which is like the McDonald's of transplants. So if God forbid you ever have to do that, they really, and I think my son could have lived longer, but they didn't have health care. We could insure him up until he was 25. And then he had to work a full-time job at Walgreens to be able to get insurance. And Walgreens covered everything. So I have nothing but great things to say about Walgreens. Okay, so when you get on my website, if you get on melodicallychallenged.org, you can see about us. There's a picture of Bobby laughing himself sick. I got a poem out of that. We have, you can also, please follow us on Facebook. We have an Instagram feed that I figured out how to do, not all by myself. I paid to learn how to do this, but you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And I post 5 days a week. Our show is on Tuesday. I start posting Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. I post a quote about our theme. I post letting everybody know with links to where you can hear my show. I post a poem excerpt, so you get an idea about the kind of poetry you're going to hear on Melodically Challenged every Tuesday. Let's see some of my cheat sheet. Does anyone have any questions so far? I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you. It's www.melodicallychallenged.org. Great question, by the way. And then I think you just put Melodically Challenged Facebook to find us, or Melodically Challenged Instagram. I need to tell you, our Instagram name is M Challenged Radio. So, because they couldn't get all those letters. If I could talk to my son, I would say too many syllables, Melodically Challenged. Ooh, trying to fit that on everything is almost impossible. But okay, so on the homepage, you'll see all of our Facebook posts, so you can check out anytime and know what's going on, and you can read those poems. If you want to know what our mission is, you would look up services, and that tells you, again, our mission. We want to broadcast the greatest poetry being written today, and I want you to hear the poets. I want you to hear it. So that's the power of radio. I got a lovely message from Savannah State. One of their listeners had heard our poem, Dancing Near a Body of Water. And they said, it's got water, it's got, dancing, but I want to know more about the poem. So I was able to tell the gal who runs Savannah State Radio that, about that poem. Okay, so when you get on, you can see our crew. Our crew is fantastic. We have Johnny Andia. Thank God he hasn't graduated yet. We have Joseph Jaw, who just graduated and moved to Portland. And we have Kat Flores, who she doesn't drive. So she used to live a couple of blocks from the radio station. So she's on a lot of our vocals. You can hear when we air the Best of Melodically Challenged over the summer, you can hear Kat Flores on the vocals. Okay. How not to record your poetry. And what I'll do is, let's hope this works. Turn this on. Nope, no, this is not going to be it. Okay. I have it plugged in. It's not working. Okay. So, I don't know if you'll be able to hear this. Hold on, let me put it near the microphone. Maybe you will. Okay, so what we're going to try to do is, I should have been here half an hour early so I could have set this up. No. We are going to go to Dropbox, my Dropbox, and I'm going to play you some really bad audio, really good poems. In fact, these poems I have actually aired. What I do when I have really bad audio, I dump it in segment B. I'm teaching creative writing this semester, this quarter at Arts Institute of Atlanta. And it's the first time I'm teaching it. And it's an intro to creative writing in 3 genres for radio and podcasts. And so, okay, so the first thing you're going to hear, there's a big excuse for that. Let's see how this works. Let me get the volume up. This is Walt Whitman himself. Okay, did you understand one word? Okay, it's Walt Whitman. I will play Walt Whitman, even if you can't understand a word. It's Walt Whitman, okay? Now, he has an excuse. He was recorded by Thomas Edison on wax cylinders. You all have no excuse. Oh, stop it, Walt. Stop it, Walt. You're over. Okay. And I have a very funny, if you get a chance, maybe during the lunch hour, I'll tell you a funny Walt Whitman story, and also how great poets are everywhere in the country. Okay, now we're going to hear one of my favorite poets, Terrence Hayes. Favorite poetry, lousy audio. It kills me every time. Oh, here we go. You hear that?
A spirit can be seen making a maple tree's shadow jealous. The church's bricks absorb the quiet songs. They flake Holy Ghost. If trouble don't come today, I visit, fall on my knees, ask her how she doing, how long is her hair now, does she still like it braided in front, still like having her scalp scratched, what y'all doing in heaven today? She tell my mama, don't let a bird get the hair that falls out your head. They'll use it to build a nest, and you'll never leave Roseville. Dirt is the only thing I know that can't die. It makes sense. We were buried here. It makes sense. Mama, don't we play.
Again, fabulous poet. That's Tyree Day, and you can hear him, I believe, on the Academy of American Poets, as well as fishhousepoems.org. Fishhouse Poems is working great. Let's see, we're not going to read that. Okay, so one, no recording in Starbucks ever. They always have that dang cappuccino machine going. Don't do it. Okay, do not record your poetry at an airport near the runway. You can hear on some of the poetry audio, the planes taking off. Like, what were they thinking? Do not record your poetry at a train station, on your laptop. I don't care how inspired you are, don't do it. Or you can record it if you want to get the ideas. Just don't submit it anywhere. Because again, while poets don't care, I'm pitching my radio show to radio stations, and they very much care about poetry audio. So how to record your poetry, and what I brought, well, I'll bring it up and I'll show it to y'all in Zoom land. Hold on. Okay, if you can, you're getting so cheap now. Okay, we've got, here's a snowball mic I paid well over, hold on, let me show it to you. There's a snowball mic I paid well over $100 for. They're down to $30 now. The quality of the sound is fabulous. So if you have 30 or 40 bucks to spend, this is a good way to do it. We've got, I used a Yeti. I think they're a lot more expensive. The benefit of the Yeti is that multi-directional. So you could interview someone. If you wanted to interview a poet, you could use a Yeti. But really, it doesn't matter what you're using to record your poetry. What matters is where you are recording your poetry. And what I recommend is you find a clothing closet with lots of clothing in it. Okay? And what you try to avoid are flat spaces that sound can bounce off of. Okay, so clothing closet, or throw a blanket, a thick blanket. It gets really hot under there. Believe me, I've done it that way as well. A thick blanket over you so that you're covered, so that all the sound goes into your phone. And so what I'm going to play for you next will be poetry. We're working on a series of radio shows about the UN sustainability goals. One of our listeners started writing to me She's brilliant. She's an electrical engineer and she loves poetry. And I realized talking to her, she knows more about poetry than most poets. So I said, you know, I'm always looking for writers. And so she came up with the idea of doing the 17 UN sustainability goals. So we're going to try to, they won't be all in a row, but our first goal is poverty. And so we've got a whole hour show about poverty, which we haven't recorded the vocals yet, but we've got it written. And then she has an overview, believe it or not, all 17 sustainability goals will be in this show. Why? Because she found 2 poets that cover all of these ideas and that write really short poems. And so I'm going to play for you now. Cat Lehman, and again, these are very, very short poems, and we'll see how long it takes to come up because it is a short poem. I wish you could hear the other poems. And what we might.
One string and the web ripples. The scowl you receive is the scowl you once gave. So smile to receive a smile, lessen a burden and feel your burden lifted. We live together in the web and all of us are tugging on it.
This is Cat Lehman. This is on a cell phone in her clothing closet. Does that sound better? Well, you heard Tyree Day. His is one of the worst. Walt Whitman, well, yeah, that's Walt Whitman. But I also have, and what I would love for you to look up is Lost and Found by Honey Bell Bay. It's a, you know, I wish we could get on the internet. I could play it for you. You would love it. She's like a preacher in church. And it starts off with black girls need to go to the Lost and Found. And then it's just, I love it, but the audio is awful. It's one thing when you're looking at it on, if you go to the Academy of American Poets and put in Lost and Found, again, look for Honey Bell Bay, but it's worth it to watch it. It's worth it to hear it. She really does a great job, a performance job on that poem. But I bury her in segment B or segment, I'll even put her in segment C. We do 9 segments for the NPR special programming clock. That's what I teach in my classes, is how to write for time. It really helps. It really helps your poetry. You get out the verbose words, the words that you don't need. But again, so I have spoken to Lucinda, and I told her that if she puts together, because I kind of do everything from Melodically Challenged, so I write most of the scripts, I record the vocals, and I produce the shows. And it takes hours and hours and hours to do that. So I don't accept submissions of audio poetry because I don't have the time. But Lucinda will put together a Georgia Poetry Society show. So if you have poems with good audio, and I mean good audio, okay, let Lucinda know, and she's going to put together, and we'll have a live show because I don't have to worry about time constraints. But let me tell you, shorter poems, and Rose is going to help Lucinda, right? Put together that show. Yes.
Right now.
Yeah, I'm there. So anyway, I am delighted to speak to all of you. Also let you know, in April for National Poetry Month, we have great giveaways, really good giveaways. I think we gave away Melodically Challenged coffee mugs. I know you all are dying for one of those. There you go. Well, poetry t-shirts, we give away tons of poetry books by the poets themselves. And so, and all you have to do is write in. Go to our website, you know, because we'll be announcing it on our website. And if I could get it up there, I'd show you. We have old playlists, but you can get an idea of what, you know, the poems that we play on our show and what the breaks are by going to our website. But go to it quick because I'm getting rid of all of our old playlists, and our goal is to have every week's playlist up there. So if you hear a poem you like, you can go to our website and you can look it up and know what the poem is and who the poet is and where to find it, either the Academy of American Poets, the fishhousepoems.org, and we have poems by Palm Beach Poetry Festival. Okay, I think you have any-
Question, I have a question, comment, Doc.
Okay.
First of all, thank you so much. That was a lot of information that you shared with the group, but I want to backtrack because I love when people volunteer me. I'm going to put it out to the membership because you had mentioned there were 2 forms of files that you're going to need for this program. One was the submission through MP3 and then conversion to WAV files. Can you talk about that?
We can work with both of them.
Okay.
But WAV files are better. They're just, the quality is so much better. But we can work with both because some people can't get to WAV files. That's okay.
Okay. And then my second question is when we first met, because in your introduction, I'd like you to give the members who are on here a little bit more information about you, about yourself, and about how you found us. Because this is, we're doing a really good job with membership, but you found Georgia Poetry Society by submitting to another poetry contest, correct? Please tell us about that. That's very interesting. I think the members need to hear the story. Thank you.
Well, I believe it was through the Alabama Poetry Society. I found out about you and Jessica Temple. And I didn't know y'all existed. So we all have to do now. I'm promoting you on my website. In fact, I sent out something this morning. So hopefully, I don't know whether we got any Zoom. I put the links in to here and links into the Zoom. But the National Poetry Society has links to all kinds of contests. And I don't really submit near enough, but if you're a poet, you need to submit because people need to hear what you have to say. And so I just won Tall Grass Writers out of Chicago. Oh, also Duotrope. Are you all familiar with Duotrope? It's free, but you can pay $30. I pay the $30. It's well worth it. And they
Repeat
list
that.
me. Excuse me?
Repeat what you just said, the name.
Duotrope. DUOTROPE, one word. And they'll send you a free email, like every other, you sign up for poetry or fiction or whatever you're doing. And they send you a newsletter letting you know about what literary journals are accepting submissions and which ones have shut down. Like I said, I won, believe it or not. And I send out my poems. I don't enter contests because it's much harder. The only thing I like about contests is they're constantly reminding you. So you know what I mean? So you're reminded to send in your poetry. But I sent it into the Tall Grass Writers out of Chicago. And they called me up. It's kind of a long story, which I'll bore you with if you want after I'm off. But they told me they accepted my poem. Woohoo! I was like, it was a play anthology. They do it every year and they're open right now. Their next anthology is luck. So if you've got poems about luck, good luck, bad luck, any kind of luck, send it in because they should call me, they sent me an email saying they accepted my poem. Then I got a phone call from the editor letting me know that I won the contest. And I said, what contest? And then they said, you didn't know when you submitted your poem, you were entering a contest? No. And then she goes, but you won't get the money until the anthology comes out. I said, money? What money? And she goes, oh, when you win the contest, you win $500. $500. Where do you ever get that in poetry? Nowhere. So I actually flew to Chicago to read my poem at their party. They have a party for the anthology. It's lovely. It's really lovely. So submit. You've got plenty of time, but don't waste it. If you've got any kind of luck poems or you want to write poems about luck, send it in. I also, again, in Alabama, they have like 15 different categories. And I won first place in the ekphrastic category, and I won honorable mention in their quantum poetry. Because I have, believe it or not, I have a poem about string theory, go figure. And I didn't think that would get published anywhere, but it got an honorable, so I made $75. I mean, you know, the whole time I've been doing this. I did win an Agnes Scott back in 2005. So that was like the first money I ever made in poetry, but yeah. So does anybody, these are great questions. Does anybody have any more questions I can answer for you? Well, I've probably taken up enough of your time. Again, go to the website and click on everything. There's a couple of the links that don't work, but most of the links, it's www.melodicallychallenged.org. We also have a YouTube channel, and we only have one thing on the YouTube channel, and that's the Leon Stokesbury Memorial show. He was my mentor. He was a great friend. He was the first poet we ever recorded from Melodically Challenged. But he went on a double date with Janis Joplin, no lie, and wrote a poem about it called Summertime. And it's fantastic, and it's in that show. The day Kennedy died, and he has just really epic poems in there. And we caught him at his vocal height. He passed away, and so we did the memorial show for him. But check it out. The poems are great. The pictures, I slap a lot of pictures of Leon in the back, because what can you do on a YouTube channel? You got to have visuals. So, but we're going to have more. I have a Vietnamese translation show I'm going to get up there. I have a sound art show I'm going to get up there. So sign up, friend us, and you'll hear about the latest news at Melodically Challenged, and record good audio. That's an order. Okay. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kathy. Appreciate that very much. I have heard a recording of Walt Whitman.
Yeah, isn't that great?
And reading some of his poems.
Thank you very much. I'll tell you my Walt Whitman story. Everybody needs to hear my Walt Whitman stories, friends.
So we have a decision to make. I guess I get to make the decision. It's 11:30. We can break for lunch, or we can go on to the next person, which is Rose. Which would you rather do? Break for lunch? Okay, we'll be back in an hour and a half.
I want to say welcome to everyone. I also want to say Happy New Year. And Happy New Year to all of our artistic word developers. We've had an awesome day today. I thank everybody for attending thus far. We still have some more exciting things to happen for you.
Can't hear anything.
So, okay, I had something here, and I wanted to say, if it's going to let me do it. Okay. All right, so we just go by memory. So hello, everybody. My name is Rose Mincy, as we all know by now. I am the chair for membership for Georgia Poetry Society. We have a lot of good things in store for you. So we're hoping that if you're not a member, that you will become one. And if you are already a member, that you will continue to follow us and to participate in all of our events that we have in store for you. Want to give a shout out to our youth. They were fantastic, representing their schools, as well as representing their home church, which is Hillside International Truth Center, where I am a member as well. And we have a group of youth that we work with. So we'll be doing some more things with the youth. Looking forward to that. Also, just wanted to mention that if you're having any challenges in regards to membership, please rest assured that we have addressed those challenges. And by the end of this month, they should be all cleared up. So hold on tight and continue to stay with us. I did want to share just a few poems from my first book, Let Me Touch You, Through Life Seasons. And the first one that we're going to share has a little bit to do with Black history, so that we are aware that tomorrow is Martin Luther King's birthday, and we'll be celebrating that on Monday. This is a poem that I wrote for Reverend Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott. It's called Warriors of Peace. Close your eyes and listen to my voice. I'm ready to fight. It's my choice. I'll walk beside you, holding your hand, for I'm your woman and you are my man. You can lean on me when times get tough. We'll travel the smooth roads and the rough. Our struggles may surely cause us pain. Still we march together in sunshine and rain. I will give you joy in 4 small faces and take you to paradise in secret places. I'm strong because I have my faith in you. We will be together forever because our love is true. I never wanted to let you go, so after you were gone, I continued to grow. The lives we touched are still touching me. I'm here to see what you wanted us to be. Our journey continues day after day, and even when our fight is over, for peace in the world, we will forever pray. This next poem is dedicated to the people of New Orleans, Louisiana, and surrounding cities. 2005, for the hurricane. The name of the poem is Rain. Tell me, how much, excuse me. Please tell me how to handle all this pain created and caused by excessive rain. Rain that nourishes the earth from above has somehow destroyed the things we love. Our homes, our churches, schools, and more, the loss of so much is cut through our core. Families are broken down to the bone, faces so full of despair, they look like stone. Babies are without their parents to hold, precious little ones, as good as gold. And although this may be hard to understand, we must always remember that it is in His hand. Still, we pray for a reason to it all, secure in our beliefs that He will never let us fall. So I guess I will be able to bear this pain, for to exist, we need both the sunshine and rain. Thank you. Yes, yes, yes. I'm sure a lot of us can relate to that. Now, this next poem actually is the longest poem I've ever written. I can't remember how I wrote it because I realize now that spirit was on the keys. So here we go. We're at war. It's sad because we've been here for so long. We're at war. It's almost like saying we're at the movies, only the violence that we're seeing is not on the big screen, it's on our streets. We're at war in our homes, in our churches, in our schools, and at our jobs. We don't talk to each other. We don't respect each other. We don't trust each other. Tell me, how can we love each other? We're at war. Each time we turn on the television, everything we see, John shot Sally, Cindy is missing, Kenny was caught selling drugs, and a baby was found on the side of the road. We're at war. Our heroes are falling. One has been accused of rape, another of child molestation, and still another has killed his wife. Could it be they're not our heroes at all? God help us. We're at war. Even our doctors can no longer be trusted. Why, just the other day, one was busted. Our teachers are not teaching, they're too busy reaching. Underpaid and undereducated, still all of this has been regulated. We're at war. We can't depend on our leaders. Heck, some we don't even choose. Where are they leading us? Do we know? Do we even care? Sometimes I think I'm breathing a different air just because I do care. We're at war. Our pastors are preaching, but that's all. They talk a good game. Do this, no, don't do that. Then when we turn our backs, there's Pastor Will taking money from the church. Nice car, Pastor Will. See you on Sunday. We're at war with our bodies. Tattoos, piercing, stapling, enlarging things we shouldn't, all because we want to appear better than we feel. Is any of it for real? We're at war on our own land. How can we go somewhere else and take a stand? Okay, finally. This was written for, I can't remember because I didn't write it on the bottom of the page. But I crown you. Woman, no doubt, was a pleasure to build. Our very essence was the product of his will. Body so beautiful, strong and lean. The things we say are the things we mean. Don't test us, my child, or disobey our word, because we won't stand for mess, and this I'm sure you've heard. Our hearts are tender and true to our souls. The lessons we share are more valuable than gold. Far too much has been placed upon our heads, some things we love and other things we dread. We have fought for so long to gain our rights. Days seem dark, yet we reach for the light. Mothers, teachers, and doctors we be, and still our true worth you may not see. Look closer, I tell you, into our eyes, see our struggles and pain. Now look deeper and see how we rise. Women we are, and oh, what a treat, crowned with his blessings from our heads to our feet. Thank you, thank you.
So, thank you, Rose, very much. May I ask if your book is for sale?
Yes, absolutely.
And for the people out in Zoom, how do they get it if they want to
If they
purchase it?
contact me at toucharose@gmail.com.
toucharose@gmail.com.
Yes.
Okay. Rose Mincy. All right. So we're going to open the floor for people who would like to read and their poems. And so I know that Kathy wants to share.
Tilt that down so I have a head there.
They want to see your face.
They want to see my face, these poor people. Okay. Again, I write under KB Kinzer. If you, I've been published here and there. So if you don't look up for Kathy, everything I write, when you hear me on my radio show, it's always KB Kinzer. Everything it's Katie, but no, it's K for my first, Catherine Bennett Kinzer. Okay. So the first one I'm going to read is, I think I may read my, trying to read short. Sorry, this is very last minute and I apologize for that. Okay. We're gonna, again, most of my poetry, I had a chapbook. I have a chapbook after the transplant, and that came in a finalist for Georgia Author of the Year a couple of years ago. And most of it is about my son, Robert, who had a double lung transplant. It was one with cystic fibrosis. And his lungs got really, really bad, and they put him on the transplant list. So the first poem I'm going to read is Waiting for the Transplant. Flat the sunlight in January, neither too bright nor too pale. Flat the hours and minutes and seconds, neither too slow nor too fast. And the sky at night, vistas of eternity of the past. Flat as a favorite journal unopened, flat as the road to Birmingham, as narcotic stupor and the long hallway floor under the hospital bed, rolling toward the elevator, flat as the blue cloth draped on the table over the body, over the shuddering ventilator. After the transplant, letters on his t-shirt spell fierce, but crumple against my son's chest as he struggles for comfort inside a nest of pillows I've gathered in the hospital recliner. What will you do? I ask, looking past hospital cribs, through windows and ambulances and intensive care, gateways to graveyards we've passed on our road here. A cat's cradle of tubes crisscross behind him, strung between a thicket of IV poles that whir and blink. He coughs a bloody mass from the donor's death. What will you do without machines that pull oxygen from the air? What will you do without sat monitors and a cannula tethered to the E-tank, and mom always tethered to the E-tank, and mom always tethered to the tank? What will you do now you no longer teeter at the brink of a world without breath? Sunlight strokes the floor again and again, while nurses flutter in and out to remove tube after tube, leaving a raw, red, undulate scar across his chest. His eyes stare at me half closed, half open, then stare at the door to a hallway filled with the terrible light of possibility and expectation. The other mothers, this is to all the nurses out there. If I can get it through it without crying out, I will try. Excuse me. They arrive, it's called The Other Mothers. They arrive in uniforms of gray, pink, and blue, the colors of dusk, of dawn, patterned like flocks of birds lifting from water to sky, rustling about the room, plumping pillows, straightening the metal forest of IV poles, to untangle tubes that tether the bed, a boat floating, trying to drift from this pastel shore. A blur of movement, they bob and turn in short, swift steps, check the charts, temperature, administer medication, and let his mother brush Vaseline over cracked and swollen lips, let her comb his hair, massage cream into his hands, his feet, and remain at the foot of the bed. They wash his body, but cover him as they go, leaving nothing exposed to janitors who swab the floor, remove trays, and empty trash cans around them. They support his head, arms, and legs with pillows and blankets, just so. For they've practiced at home, sprawling for hours on couch cushions and foam bolsters. Sunlight enters the room, rows across the floor in a narrow triangle, fades. At night, they lift and turn her son to face the window, always east. Because that's the way when the new day comes. The sun comes up in the east, and so they're always facing him for a new day. They're not going to give up on him ever, no matter how bad things get. Okay, let me read why I got tons of it. I had I will read one longer poem, and then I'm going to read a series of haiku. I had breast cancer a couple of years ago. Went through chemo and radiation, lost all my hair, being bald. Although when you are intentionally bald to make a style statement, that my head never looked that good. I looked terrible, terrible. But here's a happier one. It's called More. The last thing I'm going to read is my chemo haiku, because that's real short. More. Mushrooms and peppers dance on the grill in the student center cafeteria. Linda, the cook, dances too. The stove's not as hot as she'll be at 8, because after work, Linda's got a hot date. Her spatula flashes bright as her smile as she slaps cold meat on the sizzling steel. She'll wear her tight pants and hope for some romance tonight. So she always wears smocks. He's in for a shock. She can really fill out them jeans. She'll wear her best sneakers too. There'll be kisses in store, maybe more tonight. So everyone gets more onions, tomato, more cheese, pickles, chili, and mayo. Christmas and Kwanzaa on a hoagie roll. When Linda's in love and looking real fine, the students in line get more for their dime every time. And the last I'll read is Kimo Haiku. And I do the traditional haiku, 575. Although, you don't have to do that for haiku. My red hair blazes along with fall leaves. Chemo begins next Monday. Water slams brown leaves flat against the ground. A taunt for me, a message. A stubborn leaf hangs from a bare branch. Strands of hair draped across my skull. The mirror affirmed who I was. Where have I gone? The bald crone ponders. Sunlight warming me through the bitter cold. Lucky to be here for now. Trees boast bare branches. The mirror boasts my bald head. Will spring never come? Fourth round over, pink cherry blossoms appear through never-ending rain. Now I'll do it. Thank you so much it's been an honor to be here. Thank you so much.
We have some people in Zoom land who would like to read, and the first is Barbara
Nishanian.
Is that right?
Nishanian. Okay, I am not a professional. I write by the seat of my britches. And this first one is called, can you hear me through my mask?
Yes.
Hazard on the street. Lady really shouldn't drive. That old person, hair so white. She doesn't know what to do. Such a pathetic, sad sight. Car horns blowing behind her. She hears a man rant and rave. You shouldn't be out driving. You've got one foot in the grave. I see why she's annoying. She's so dangerous too. Wonder, does she live alone? Does she have a me or you? Perhaps doesn't have a choice when to doctor she must go. Before you condemn this old soul, think of elderly you know. Glance her way just once again. Put yourself in her sad seat. One day, we too may become an old hazard on the street. And the next one is on aging too, since I see I'm not the oldest out there. And this is called I Wonder. I wonder, as I'm growing older, how much older will I get? Or what's the chance to remember myself or self not know I've met? Will I forget who I have been, my life of long ago? The things I've done, places I've gone, will these or you I know? I wonder as I grow older, how different can it be? Today, not remembering you, days wonder about me. I enjoy the moment I am in, one before the one I forget. How many of you have I asked, my darling, have we met? Wonder if you've been wondering, how do I get through each day? I remember God loves me and I still know how to pray. And this last one, can you see this? It's a painting I did of 9/11, and it's a poem I wrote. That day, you're just watching TV, then a horror you see. It's beyond comprehension. That can't be. It just can't be. Eyes should see things lovely, not what they saw that day. If we turned off the programs, would the images go away? Some will never forget the smells, the scene, that sound. Agonizing reality. Not all loved ones would be found. Not found, but they're not lost. In God's memory they're kept. For he has felt what you feel and seen all the tears you've wept. God understands your doubts, your anger, and your fears. Remember, in the future, he will wipe away all tears. Thank you. I'm a new member and I appreciate being heard. Well, thank you, friends.
Would you tell
Thank
us how
you.
to say your last name?
Some people say Nashanian and some say Nashanian, like Sean.
Mhm.
Nashanian. It's an Armenian, I-A-N names. All Armenian names come from where Noah landed the ark, and I didn't know that. So that's in Armenia.
Yes, thank you for that.
Thank you. I've only been writing recently.
Okay,
Oh.
that was excellent.
Thank you.
Maybe I should wait a little bit longer to write.
Hey, I tell everybody I'm 42 twice, meaning I'm 84.
Okay, well, you're 1 year older than me. Do we have any
Thank you.
others in the Zoom land that would like to share? I'm looking at my screen.
Eva?
Well, I don't have anything prepared and I'm actually very sleepy right now.
Are
I
we
was
putting you to sleep? I hope not.
no, I was traveling the last 2 days and so I'm very tired from traveling and so I can really feel a nap sneaking up on me.
Okay, well,
But
we won't keep-
thank you.
we won't keep you too long. Do we have any others in the audience that like to share? I have one. Okay, Rose is gonna come up and share, and then when she finishes up, I'll share one I have.
Hello again. I just want to do a small shout out to a couple of our latest members. I want to say welcome and congratulations to Catherine Kinder for becoming a member. Also, Wanda D. Hollis for becoming a member. Marquise Williams in Savannah. Cassandra Scott in South Carolina. Ashima Akawan, also in South Carolina. So we're taking on members. The doors are open. Please don't hesitate to join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose, for that. All right, I have one kind of medium-sized poem, I guess.
Can't hear you, George.
Yeah, I can't hear him either.
I can't hear either.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm glad. There was that TV commercial about where the guy kept walking around saying, "Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?" So I think my wife says that to me a lot. Can you hear me now? She says I don't hear. So that's an issue. Okay, I call this poem Impatient. I'm not impatient, not even close to impatient. I shut down my laptop without waiting. I do not like to wait. Do not like to wait for the programs to shut down. I shut it down when I need to. I do it a lot lately. Impatient without being impatient. Now as I try to boot up, I look out the window. It's going to take a while. My laptop is cranky. A creature from a foreign galaxy. It seems to think a lot. A cursor circle spins when it's thinking. I'm waiting for the chime. Icons begin to appear on my screen. but no chime. You know the chime, the Windows doorbell chime. I look out the window again. Tina across the street waves at me from her upstairs window. I did not know she could see in my window. Finally, Windows chimes. I wave back. Soon I'll be off to the races. A random page opens. Why? I close it. I click on the icon to open my bank account. Another random page opens. It asks, why should you freeze new used books before you read them? Really, to kill stuff, I suppose. I close the suggestion about freezing a new used book. My bank account opens the screen. I wonder if others can see my screen, my buying history. Could Tina lift binoculars to her eyes and read what's on my screen? I hope not. I have lots of questions. I can Google for answers. Patiently, I search them. And then while looking, I am patiently waiting for my laptop to behave. Thank you. Well, it's been a great day. We've had a lot of poetry and we've had a lot of suggestions about how we can become better at what we do. And I know I have a closet I can go into and read. The trouble is, I have 2 cats. They do not like closed doors. So if I go in and close the door, they're going to be thumping at the door the whole time. So darn it. Anyway, thank you very much for coming and thank you for being with us. We've had an opportunity to share lots of great poetry with each other, and we look forward to the spring. The announcement of the spring meeting and the time and place will be coming out shortly. What was that? Lucinda, are you there? No, she doesn't want to say anything. Trish, do you want to say anything?
No, I really don't. I don't think Lucinda's there because I don't see her picture up. So.
No, she's not here. Okay. Well, thank you all very much and have a happy day.
You too. Thank you for a great meeting.